Call to order. Today is Thursday, March 12th. We're in the Berlin room of the Olentangy Administrative Offices. Mrs. Hatfield, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Mr. King is absent. Mr. O'Brien?
Here.
Mrs. Patrick?
Here.
Mrs. Wagner-Fiesel?
Here.
And Dr. Weiss?
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're going to start off on a bright note. We have a presentation. Oh, no, we have to approve the agenda. I'm sorry. I was so excited for our presentation. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. A second, please?
Second.
Please call the roll, Mrs. Oh, is there any discussion?
Nope.
Okay, please call the roll, Mrs. Hatfield.
Mrs. Wagner-Fiesel?
Yes.
Dr. Weiss?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
And Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, now we are excited to welcome from our STEM Academy, instructor Jamie Dupe. And do we have all students here or just one? Just one, and I'm going to guess you're Maddie. and Maddie Hefferman. And they will be presenting to us the Space Lettuce project for NASA. So welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Maddie Heffernan, and today I'm here to tell you about a really cool project that I've had the opportunity to work on. This is called the Grow Beyond Earth Challenge with Fairchild and NASA, or as we like to call it, Space Lettuce. For this project, we basically got to learn about space farming. It was a really cool opportunity where we got to learn how to grow lettuce in a growth box that is really similar to the Veggie Station on the International Space Station. With this project, we are able to learn how lettuce can grow in microgravity conditions and hopefully improve astronauts' overall health. On the International Space Station, they really struggle to get enough vitamin B, which is really important, and the main way to get those is through fresh fruits and vegetables. So having fresh fruits and vegetables up there will really improve their overall health. The Veggie Station is a pretty simple setup. They don't have a lot of extra space up there. So it's a small box with a growth light, and up there they grow their plants in sort of pillows, but we got pots for ours. And it's a really cool and new and innovative way to grow plants. So for trial one of our project, it was pretty basic farming. We had to follow NASA's instructions on how to grow this lettuce, very exact and on point. We had to log water intake, any extra observations such as algae or mold growth, and the overall growth and size of our lettuce. So here is week one. On our first picture, you can see planting day with no sprouts yet. But on the second picture, you can see germination. We planted 2 seeds in each of the pots, and everybody sprouted, and we were really excited to see that our project was going pretty well so far. During week 2, they started to get a lot bigger, and we were able to record volume for the first time. And we also got to do what we call survival of the fittest day, where we pick one plant to continue growing. We picked the stronger and bigger plant. If we kept both of them in there, a lot of overcrowding would have occurred, and the plants wouldn't have been able to grow as large or have such a good result. So during week 3, you can see that the plants really got very large. We saw that they were starting to leave their pots a little bit and expected to see a little bit more overcrowding in week 4, which, as you can now see, we really, really did. They got to be very large and completely left their pots and were running into each other. And this was a problem that we noticed right away. They got a lot larger than we were expecting. So here's our graph of our growth. You can see the red line being red romaine lettuce. It started off pretty small but ended up being our plant with the most volume, which kind of surprised us, but we were really excited to see. Here's just some of our data that we collected. For phase 2 of the project, we got to take one of the problems that we noticed throughout our growth and try and solve that problem that we chose. So the problem that we noticed very clearly was overcrowding. So we decided to 3D print cones to help the plants grow upward instead of outward in hopes of them not running into each other as much and increasing the overall biomass, which was our overall goal. So for our cones, you can see we tried 3 different sizes. The first one was too big, the second was too small, and then we found our perfect Goldilocks pot, which fit just right, and we were really, really excited. About 2 weeks ago, we planted our second trial seeds, and they all germinated really well, and we were able to take them down to survival of the fittest day, and now we have one growing, and today we were able to put our cones on, and they all fit really well and look great, so we're really excited with how it's going so far. We submitted our proposal to NASA, and they accepted and approved our proposal, which means that they want us to come down to Miami, Florida, and present at the Fairchild Challenge about what we found with our project. And we're really, really excited about it. They hand out awards there, and we're just really excited to be part of such an amazing opportunity. This is something that we really wouldn't have gotten to do without STEM or our amazing teacher, Ms. Staub, and we're really excited to be a part of it. So thank you so much.
Oh, we have questions.
Oh, yes, of course, of course, of course.
You don't get to leave that fast.
Yes.
I have, anyone
go
wanna
ahead.
I was wondering why why did you use the 3D printer to make the cones? Was that the challenge because that's what they would have up in space, or?
We have a lot of different 3D printers at STEM, and it was something that is really available to us that isn't available to a whole lot of other people, and we were really comfortable using them. And the machines themselves can be kind of expensive, but not really in comparison to what they can do, and the filament is pretty cheap, so they aren't expensive to produce, and it is something that would be not super difficult to bring to the ISS, so we knew that it was something that could potentially be brought to the International Space Station if NASA really likes our idea and wants to try it out up there.
So is there one that they think they prefer, like a type, like would they prefer the red lettuce over?
Up there, they are growing red romaine, from what I've read so far. They've recently started bringing up flowers and a couple other plants. But lettuce, if I remember correctly, was the first thing that they brought up there, just because it's obviously very good for you, and it's something that's really easy to grow and can withstand a lot of harsh conditions, and they figured that that would be the best thing to start with.
That's really neat.
Oh, neat.
Well, we hope there's no travel bans and you
Right,
get to
you
go
get
to
to
that
go.
symposium. That's
We're really looking
exciting.
forward to it, just crossing our fingers at this
Yeah,
point.
that's very exciting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yep,
Yes.
Great job.
yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome
you.
project.
Well done.
Very well done. Well, I don't have any exciting lettuce experiments for you for my board president's report, and I know that everybody really just wants to hear from Mr. Rafe tonight. He will be addressing the coronavirus in his superintendent's report, so I will talk about everything but. In February, I attended, we had the facilities committee meeting. And as this being our last board meeting prior to Tuesday's election, I feel that it is very important to reiterate why we brought the levy to the community at this time, as it was, the hot topic of facilities. So first, we are out of classroom space. We'll squeak by next year, but we're bringing that forward because we need to start construction in the spring for elementary 16, as well as begin that whole site design process for the middle schools to open in 2023. It's all a lengthy process. On social media, the topic of portables has come up as a solution. I'd like to reiterate that we are certain of our growth. That's not a questionable issue, and portables are more expensive than most would think. They don't hold their value, and they're really designed for temporary fluctuations in our enrollment. We know our enrollment is going up, and that would be an expensive Band-Aid for what we need to be a long-term solution. And most importantly, by securing the financing in a no new mill bond on March 17th, we would be avoiding new mandates by the state for changes to storm shelter codes. This would save the taxpayers approximately $750,000 per elementary school and $1.25 million for a middle school. If these new requirements do in fact go into effect this fall, a November ballot issue would be too late to exempt us from those new code requirements. And it could ultimately cost the community another $2,750,000 for building the same building. So I just wanted to go over, with community members that is why we're doing what we're doing at this particular time. Also, Dr. Wise and I attended our policy committee meeting last week, and I believe Dr. Fetty will be presenting our first reading of new policy changes at the April board meeting. Last night was the Ohio School Boards Association Spring Conference, and it was the first OSBA conference that I've missed since joining the board in 2016, but I had my own board meeting for the foundation, so I was not able to attend. But at that conference, we recognized several of our schools. The first award was for Momentum, which was increased students' performance. And we recognized Cheshire Elementary, Wyandotte Run Elementary, Tyler Run Elementary, and Liberty High School. Also recognized last night was Freedom Trail for their Blue Ribbon nomination, as well as the Olentangy STEM Academy, which you can see why they were recognized for their outstanding programming, and the Olentangy ACT program. So a big congratulations to those schools for their leadership, and they are shining examples of educators going above and beyond and maximizing learning for every student. So congratulations to them. But I've saved the best for last because last night we recognized Mrs. Julie Wagner-Fiesel for her 15 years as a board member. We thank you for your service, and we know the community is grateful for all the facts that you share with them. We're lucky to have you and your extensive history of Olentangy, and your official new name is Encyclopedia Olentangy, I've decided. So in closing, I would like to remind the community that we have a ballot issue on Tuesday's election, and we can only move in a forward direction if our community shows up and votes. So with the daily updates on the virus, I would encourage those to vote early. And you can do that at the Board of Elections, which is at 2079 US 23 North. That would be in the Big Lots Shopping Plaza where the Bureau of Motor Vehicles is. It's open 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, Saturday 8 to 4. And on Sunday from 1 to 5, as well as there will still be early voting on Monday the 16th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So we encourage you to exercise your right to vote. I am very confident there will be plenty of hand sanitizer there, so you can do so safely. And with that, Mr. Rafe, your superintendent's report.
Well, thank you. I'm going to stay right here because I'm going to have my colleagues maybe join together at the podium at some point in time, should we want to direct questions to them. So, Dustin, you can just roll on. We've had an interesting week or so with coronavirus and everything going on related to that. Yeah, you can, come on. No, he's over there. He's got it. Obviously, the governor had another press conference today. There's a second press conference that's occurred here since our last board meeting. He, in his initial press conference, did not give any real directives towards schools. Talked about limiting mass gatherings of 250 people. Obviously, in this one, we're talking about limiting mass gatherings of up to 100 people. And he also has made the decision that we all would close our buildings for the next 3 weeks. And I believe the thinking behind that, and listening to the press conference and the health professionals, is to try to create as much social distancing as we can, and try to get people to stop the spread of the virus. And I think the greatest fear that the state officials have is that we continue down this path of acceleration and we overwhelm the hospital systems. And, you know, I don't know that anybody has a crystal ball for that or not, but I think they're taking a prudent course of action. I know this is a huge inconvenience for our operation, but it is probably, you know, the safest course of action that we should, you know, that we're going down this path. So we are going to be closed for school for the next 3 weeks, starting Monday will be our last, well, starting Tuesday. Monday, after Monday's classes, thank you, I was getting there. After Monday's classes, all activities are canceled, all sporting contests, all practice, all events. Classes will not be in session. We had a great meeting today. I got our team really mobilized, formulated communication. I'm sorry to the resident who was disappointed we didn't get it out 4 minutes after the end of the governor's press conference, but we were really working hard to be thorough and diligent, trying to cover as many points as possible. And of course, there's a lot of questions, and there will continue to be a lot of questions. So, but the team really responded well and put together, I think, a great plan. We were in constant consultation with Elaine Eddy. We met with the all union presidents yesterday to brief them on where we were, waiting the governor's next announcement. What we've sent a message to our staff, though, is that we will expect by Monday. The reason we're in school on Monday is that we don't have children in school tomorrow, so we need an opportunity, one last opportunity for our staff to meet with their students, let them know what their expectations will be for online learning that we expect to occur. Elaine has already sent a memo or an email to the teaching staff that our expectation is that they are working remotely, that they're to be available for online learning activities with their students starting Tuesday. Starting Tuesday. So, you know, that will all, and I'm sure, again, there'll be bumps in the road. What else? What else you guys want to, you guys got probably more to add than, there's so many layers to this.
Talk about state testing?
We do not know what will be happening with state testing. The governor nor the Department of Education has not addressed that. You know, obviously, we're closing our facilities for 3 weeks, starting on Tuesday the 17th, and we'll stay closed through our spring break. So 2 of the weeks, 9 of the days are days that we expect instruction to occur. And then, obviously, we have the week of spring break where we will not have instruction. So, what's that? Extracurriculars are all canceled, all practices. And that's just, that ended up being the overall consensus of the majority of the OCC schools. I did not get a message that anybody was going to be conducting any practices for the next short term, you know, while we're on this hiatus. I mean, I was only disappointed was the wording of a 3-week spring break. I mean, that was not a really good message, because immediately then people went, why are we having classes? Why are we having online learning? Why are we doing all these things? And that's just, you know. And then they've since clarified that. The expectation would be that we have online learning opportunities. We're not using calamity days. We made that decision to not use calamity days. Because we actually, because our school day is so long, we could do that, but we believe the expectation of our community is that our kids continue to have opportunities to learn, and that our staff continues to work during all of this time. So the expectation is staff will be working during the 9 days we don't have, we don't have people in our buildings.
Food service will prepare and offer breakfast and lunch
What,
opportunities.
do you want
Food
to
service
say to
Go
the
ahead, why don't
mic?
you guys can rotate
Is that
through.
daily or prepared once a week for pickup?
Daily. So yes, food service department will prepare opportunities for breakfast and lunch meals for students and families. So we put that in the communication today briefly, but another communication will come out exactly the execution of the plan and how that will work.
I think just
And then we're,
communication for all the different
right, so we have a communication checklist, and these guys have been working great. So we're preparing communications to all the different work groups on the expectations of the next 3 weeks. So those will go out probably Monday. We have them in draft form right now, so we want to make sure that we answer as many questions as we can in those memos. So for example, memos would be to classified staff, memos would be to our substitute staff, and classified staff consist of food service workers, bus drivers, custodians, maintenance. And then we do have quite a few subs in the district, so we will send a memo to subs as well. We have administrators. This building, Olentangy administrative offices, which we will be open over the next 3 weeks, so we'll communicate that with our staff here and what that looks like.
We are going to take the kindergarten registration that was to happen during these 3 weeks or the 2 weeks that we would have had class and move those to May, and we'll be sending out communication and posting information about that as well.
I just want to say, I think there wasn't any heads up given by the governor. Nobody knew. I mean, I'm on the Career Center School Board, and as soon as the governor was done talking, the superintendent called me and said, did he just say what I think he said? Because they were preparing they had a plan in place, but it wasn't this one. So, you know, my sister teaches at Pickerington. I have another friend in Gahanna, and so their messages were coming out the same time ours was. That's as soon as we could get messages out, because we still had questions that needed to be answered before we even informed our parents. So this staff did their job by getting the message out as soon as they had the right answers. That the wrong thing to do would have been to get information out that was wrong. So, you know, in this day of instantaneous news, we got the news when everybody else did. So I just want to make that clear to everybody. My sister who's in Pickerington, both my sisters work in Pickerington, they have gotten multiple emails correcting emails that have gone out. So that didn't happen here. So, you know, that's a great reflection on our staff.
It is.
So-
And you know, please have a little patience, because this is unprecedented.
Yeah.
We've got no prior experience in this arena, so I think we're all kind of figuring it out as it goes. Students' best interest is always being considered. So,
Yeah. And
Yeah,
for
there's
those-
just, and again, it continues to evolve. We do have a lot of trips going that we're going to, we're informing the advisors that we're not sending people out of state, just,
You're not sending people out of state? Okay.
During the 3-week period?
Right.
Or,
well, that for right now, correct. So thank you for letting me
so we're just
clarify
going
that.
to kind of hold.
Yeah, because we
tight.
have to, but you know, again, it's starting to get to the point where, because we've got the 8th grade DC trip coming up.
Yeah.
And that's,
Exactly.
obviously, we got to get to the point where we either have to make a payment, families have to make a payment, and there could be a travel ban go into place, and then they're out. And so there's some groups haven't made their final payments, so, you know, everybody says, you know, again, all the health officials say it's going to get much, much worse before it gets better. I don't know that, again, I don't know if that will be true or not, but that's what they say. I mean, New York City is shutting down, is what I've heard this afternoon. Like,
So our trips over spring break, like our sports trips,
We had already canceled the international trip that was planned over spring break or pulled back on that. And so we'll be communicating tomorrow with all of our coaches, advisors, and organizations that do have trips planned over spring break that we are not going to continue with the board approval that they all have received at this point. And then for future April and May travel, we'll continue to evaluate as the crisis evolves. And then also, we will put out messaging for those who are traveling over spring break and what we will need to understand about individuals coming back to the district, to our area regarding their travel. And what that, again, we have before today and throughout this entire time leading up to today and beyond, we will look to the CDC, the Ohio Department of Health, the Delaware General Health District to guide us in messaging related to travel and contact with individuals. So we will look for that.
I just wanted to confirm the ACT testing is still taking place.
Thank
this
you.
weekend,
Yes.
SAT.
SAT?
It's not- I think it's ACT.
There's one student taking
So we
Yeah, and
are
Liberty.
scheduled on Saturday at Liberty High School to give to administer the ACT, and apparently one student with the SAT, so that will still continue, because that involves students not only within our district, but also outside of our district, and so that will continue. But, you know, Todd's team has been working on deep cleaning up to this point and will continue, so that is in place already as well.
So is our current view that we can absorb the 2 weeks and not change or extend the school calendar?
I would say yes. Right now is that we're in that,
Yeah, I didn't check
go
to
ahead.
answer that.
No, you got it.
I would say yes. So we are, even with the 2 weeks, we'll be way still above the state minimum requirements. I believe we have somewhere in the 22, 24 days, depending on the level, that we can still not come to school and meet state requirements. So because we're going to continue learning during the duration of the school closure, we feel like we'll be able to minimize the lost time. All of the teachers will be communicating with their families and their students by the end of day Monday to inform them of how their classroom will be continuing. It's not going to look the same in every classroom because different classrooms use different technologies and have different learning goals, but every teacher will address how they are going to further their classroom's year-long learning goals over the course of the closure. So, you know, I've been using our high school industrial tech classes. It's going to be really tough for them to provide meaningful activities on a daily basis during the closure. Students don't have that kind of equipment at home, nor do they have the supervision to use it. They still might be able to provide some written material or videos for students to watch and reflect on, but an English class could look really different as well. We have in English and science and math, we have online programs that students already have access to and have been using in the classroom. So in that regard, those areas will be pretty seamless. Obviously, at the younger grades, the comfort with technology is growing, so those teachers will address that subject by subject, resource by resource. They'll have the ability to send home printed packets where necessary on Monday, which is going to be a benefit to them. And like Mr. Rafe said earlier, all the teachers will be available on every school day, air quotes, school day, to the teachers and parents for communication, for help. We'll still have teachers coming into the district as needed to conduct IEP meetings or conduct those meetings virtually through tools that we have like Skype. So we're confident that we can continue a learning environment. It will not be the same learning environment. It will not be the same environment from class to class. But our expectation is that every teacher clearly communicates what the parent and student should expect, and then we'll follow through on that over the course of the closure so that everyone understands what they should be doing. We're also reminding teachers, and they've been very receptive so far, to be compassionate, to be flexible. Excuse me. We can't expect every student to be online at 1 o'clock for an online lecture, right? Students might have to be at childcare or providing childcare for younger siblings. So it's going to be what we call asynchronous. You know, here's the assignment, you get to it when you're able to get to it, and provide the support. We'll also be providing devices as needed to families that don't have devices. When the family doesn't have internet connectivity at all, we will provide paper-only assignments for those families.
My hope would be that we suspend state testing and get back all the time the true instructional time we're losing here. And
Worst case scenario is we return and the state makes us test consistently from our return to the end of the school year. That's not good for anybody. We don't rely on state testing to know how we're doing. You're all aware of our continuous improvement plan and our annual report. We measure our success in multiple ways. We don't need the state test to tell us how good we're doing. And honestly, I think our teachers and students would all welcome a reprieve from state testing.
I do too, and they should at least be on paper. I don't, the hoops that this district jumps through to get all of the devices from building to building, it is a puzzle that really takes genius effort to figure out,
Right.
so.
Paper testing would be a means for us to consolidate the testing dates.
Right.
So in that regard, that would be beneficial. Right now, each high school has to test differently because we have to move those devices from school to school. If it was paper, all the English students could test on the same day and be done.
But obviously, we lose a significant amount of instructional time with the testing and general disruption of a typical school day. Even if you do a 2-hour delay and test with a 2-hour delay, or like we used to do, you still had modified days, so.
My fear is that the legislature won't be able to work out all of the report card and testing is tied to so many other laws, many of which are silly, but they are tied to them, and, so they'll have to figure out where to give.
Governor Dewey did say, no one will die if we don't give the state testing.
Which wasn't news to us, but yes. We appreciated him saying that.
Yeah, it probably wasn't the right word to use. One thing I want to say, we're not answering questions about when prom is going to be. That's not like the top priority right now, like it is online. Our priority is the safety of our students and providing educational opportunities, not when prom is.
Well, and the reality is, it is still a
know.
highly fluid situation.
Yeah.
I think the decision for the 3-week closing came down to, I would assume our break was the last week, or the latest.
There's actually one, I think it's Columbus Public or Southwestern City. Southwestern City is the week after us.
Oh, wow.
So they're out for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, that at least, but now, the concern will be coming back. People will have traveled, and so they'll be coming back, and I just.
Are we asking families that travel to self-report where they travel to?
I was in a webinar with Bricker and Eckler on Wednesday that they did for school districts, because Bricker and Eckler is who the Career Center uses, and we cannot mandate, we can't say, where have you been? We can't,
You
you
can
can ask them.
request, and they can.
Right, but they don't have to answer.
Right, so we should at least ask the question and let them not answer.
The University of Kentucky is doing that. They're asking anybody that leaves
Right.
campus to
I mean,
fill
nationwide,
a
so if you
travel
travel, you can
report.
accept a self-report.
Yeah, we've definitely been in consultation with our attorney on that for students and staff.
Yeah.
And we're navigating it currently.
I would
and
hope
we-
that people would let us know, just for everybody else's sake, but it's not like something that can be mandated.
The other point that you might be interested in is we still have a full schedule in our new Student Welcome Center. People continue to move into the district. So we are down to one person in the new Student Welcome Center right now. We are transitioning employees as we speak. So as long as the health of the one person is good, we will continue to have those appointments because we have very little flexibility on that end. Of course, if somebody wants to reschedule, we will reschedule, but our intention is to continue with the enrollment process.
So will we be trying to kind of measure and assess kind of the economic and budgetary impact of the situation in terms of, you're going to go 2 weeks with no revenue from school lunches? Do you have food spoilage? Do we offset that with no AC, no heat? I mean, are we going to track kind of the puts and takes of being closed for 3 weeks?
Sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because, the other.
We'll need to understand that, just.
Yeah, and we're currently going through the budgeting process to put together the May 5-year forecast update. So we're looking at those pieces right now, and we'll continue to monitor and go through those individual impacts that we see as we move forward with the plan.
Really, from a salaried benefits perspective, your only exposure is if you extend the calendar, right?
Yeah, that would.
Beyond the contractual number of hours.
You know, if we, although we do not have specific language in our contract related to calamity days, like the work on extra calamity days, or, but if the state, if we fall below the minimum and have to, then, no, those just get shifted. So they'd have to work those days. Hourly, you know.
So if we extend it, the answer would be
Yes?
They'll be expected.
If we extended, we would have to have some of our workers, like our hourly workers, work additional, so.
But not the teaching staff would not be, I would think would be an additional cost.
The beauty of our school day, though, is that it is longer, and so if necessary, we have that buffer built in. A lot of school districts don't have that.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of people realize that A, your kids are in school longer, so you're getting more of an education, and then that can help us in situations like this if we have to fall back on that. But we're not paying our teachers any extra for working a longer day than Pickerington. You know, our salaries are right in line, if not less, than the majority of school districts in Central Ohio. So, but our students get more learning every day because of our longer school day.
I do have one concern that I think, maybe, I don't know how you prepare for it, but I think that there will be a significant amount of people working from home, and that could tax the technology platforms to support that. I don't know if we'll get to the point where kids have to work in shifts, or, I mean, you could have a mom and a dad working from home, students working online. I just think people need to.
It's definitely a real concern. Obviously,
is,
we
yeah.
don't know the network bandwidth at each house.
Right.
Again, we're reminding teachers to be compassionate. We're not trying to give students 9 hours of work every day. And there will be multiple kids in a household, maybe sharing a device. So that is a real concern, but we don't have a built-in solution for it, but we will be monitoring it as we go. And if our teachers have to make adjustments, I'm confident that they'll be able to.
Did you have something?
Yeah, it's not like you've got a VPN issue where you've got a capacity issue on your VPN, because in essence, during the school day, most of the kids are already logging into Schoology and these other apps, and now they're just going to log in from home. It's really more of a, you could argue, an AT&T and Verizon issue.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If corporations are having people work from home, plus kids, and everyone's, you know, taxing
Right,
the
it's not,
Wi-Fi.
that one doesn't fall on us, but.
No,
we
it
just-
it doesn't, but it'll be an interesting,
it will
I'll just
be.
say, we had 100% of our technology people work from home today to test our VPN capacity, to see if we had reliability issues as well as, you know, timing issues, does everything slow down? Because we're going to 50% work from home effective Monday. And we were able to do it, the bandwidth is fine, but you got to buy the bandwidth too.
I know the wireless providers have been really taking advantage of the opportunity to promote their wireless kind of hotspots or whatever they're called that are available at those stores if a family were to be in a bind and want to solve the issue quickly.
I think Starbucks is not letting people come in and use their Wi-Fi,
Oh, really?
is what I heard.
Mhm.
You can't have more than 100 people.
Right.
Oh.
In
The public
libraries.
library-
Has Delaware Library said anything?
The library center has hotspots that they were lending out at one time, but I don't know if they still are.
They're closed, yeah. So the
They're
library
closed.
is closed too.
Oh.
So we got an email from them, yeah. So we are going to do the absolute best that we can, and it's going to be great.
But, I mean, the thing of it is, every school district in the state is in this situation.
Yeah.
I mean, be grateful we're not in Belmont County or Morgan County. You know, unfortunately, I have no idea what those kids are gonna do.
Without access.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll hope that our families are all healthy as a result.
Yeah, and it is, I will say, you know, these are the times that you find out how really, really good the people you have working here are, because I couldn't be more proud of the way people just stepped up and took charge and problem solved and delivered on, you know, above and beyond, because it's certainly not a normal situation.
I will say on social media, when this went out there, people were already saying, my college child is home if you need babysitting service, you know, so, you know, people were already rallying to say, hey, I've got something that can solve your problem. So that was very refreshing to see, you know, so maybe Mallory.
Mallory will have a car and be home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, this is an opportunity for the community to kind of come together and help each other out. I hope that happens, and, you know, most importantly, share toilet paper.
Well, and you know, again, I've gotten a lot of, I'm sure I will get some messaging that is not always respectful, but the initial emails I've gotten were highly respectful, complimentary, and just this was, where are you? Somebody, this fantastic email demonstrating preparation and appropriate level of concern. Thank you for taking care of our 3 kids in the school system.
That was a nice one.
That was nice.
Yeah.
That's what I said. I forwarded to Kristen. Kristen, this is nice. But we'll give people a couple days to.
Once the kids are home for a few days, you make it a different.
Yeah, exactly. So while all that was going on, we have also still been actively involved in planning for March 17th. So Emily and I finished up this week with our final round of community engagement events, Freedom Trail Pto. We had about 15 people there last night that were highly, highly positive. Emily was at OHS Music Boosters on Tuesday. I was at a really interesting house with the homeowners are 2 retired people who moved here 4 years ago. Kids went through Dublin schools. They're cross-street neighbors who moved here in 2002 from Upper Arlington to get away from high taxes. At the time, that was a great decision, although our taxes are still lower than Upper Arlington. So, but 80, you know, 2 married couples in their 80s who just couldn't be more complimentary of the community and the school district. Parents from parochial schools, parents from 3 sets of parents with kids in our school, and all of them were highly, highly complimentary and highly supportive. They asked typical questions about state funding and why private schools get more money than us, but they clearly saw the value of a strong school system for their property value, saw the value of a strong school system for creating a safe community, and it was just a really great coffee chat. So it was a good one to end, come to an end on. You know, I remain hopeful that the majority of our community will remember why they moved here. And I think we've done everything possible to provide information to the community so that they can make an informed decision, and we'll move forward after that. Any questions on that, on the levy? I did have a really interesting, and I think this is really one last good point, but you know, the residents in Liberty Township got really concerned about loss of safety services and with regards to fire and EMS. I think the diminishing the quality of the school district would have every bit as strong of impact on the safety of the community. So from a logic standpoint, I would think they'd be just as fired up to support this levy, even though it's a bigger number. So, and lastly, we got just one retirement resignation to take note of. Nancy Fairbanks is retiring in October, actually. We have placed her on a long-term sub-assignment, and we'll hire to replace her position for next school year. But Nancy's been with us for over 20 years, longtime AP biology teacher at Olentangy High School. So we wish her well. And then there are our upcoming dates. We are officially at the end of 3rd quarter. Hard to believe. So we do not have students in school tomorrow for a teacher workday. And then I guess we could have modified this. We were a little busy all afternoon. But officially, our spring break.
All dates are still correct.
Correct.
Considered spring break now, is that correct?
Yeah, we're not on spring break. contrary to what the governor says, so. All right, any questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Mrs. Hatfield, your treasurer's report, please.
Of course. As we previously mentioned, we are working on budgets and getting the May forecast up and running and compiled. So we'll continue to move forward with those plans as we work through the new work structure. But I think we'll be able to carry out the immediate plans that we had, and it shouldn't slow us down too much. Most of us have access to laptops and can continue that from home should we need to. The other item that I wanted to bring up was just a general note about investments and markets. If you follow the market at all, you know that interest rates are plummeting and stock markets are having strong deficits at this point. However, what we are allowed to invest in and put our public funds in are protected. The the initial money that we set aside and put in our investments are protected. So what we might be losing is just the investment income. It's not the initial investment dollar amount. So I just wanted to kind of reiterate that as people are watching the market and seeing all of the volatility that is happening right now. We are still in a good place with what we have set aside in those funds. So, you know, we won't be able to receive the income revenue, but that's better than a loss. Much better than a loss. And we have not received our final settlement of the fall or winter real estate taxes, so I don't have that information to update where we will officially land with that, but we should have that maybe by our next meeting, if not, definitely in April. So more to come on that as well. Are there any questions?
On the investment side, is it all in fixed rate or is any of it floating rate?
There are some that are floating, not all of it's fixed,
Okay.
but it is all secured.
We're limited to where we can put our money anyway.
No, I
I
understand,
think
but even
the
within
people-
that menu of choices, you can go fixed or variable and try to play the interest.
Play the market.
Right.
Just trying to mentally think about how much interest rate exposure we may or may not have.
And, you know, the last month that we had, we were probably looking at about 1.5% to 1.7 and maybe 1.25. Just general market rates that are out there. So for those of you that might want to refinance your home, now's a great time to do that as the rates are low. But,
Offset the
yeah,
tax increase.
that's been where we've been, and it's continuing to go down to about 1%. And then in terms of what also will be helpful to us is if we are successful next week and we can move forward with the bond issuance, we will be able to take advantage of those low costs too. So there's two sides of that low rate that we're really monitoring and making sure we can take advantage of as much as possible. Are there any other questions?
Nope.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any public participation today?
No, we do not.
Okay. All right. Well then, Mr. Rafe, would you please present your superintendent action items?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to present superintendent action items A through E for approval.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Okay, any discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Mrs. Wagner-Fiesel,
Yes.
Dr. Weiss,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mrs. Patrick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second. Thank you. Mrs. Hatfield?
Mrs. Wagner-Fiesel,
Yes.
Dr. Weiss,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
and Mrs. Patrick.
Yes.
Thank
So I
you.
believe we'll be meeting here again, I think, April
26th.
April 26th.
No, March 26th.
I'm scooting ahead just a tiny bit, aren't I? All right, thank you. We're adjourned.
Thank you.